For a number of years now, primary schools in Southwark have been oversubscribed, and there is in place a long-term programme of permanent expansion for these schools. Charles Dickens is one of them. But in the short term, we still need to provide places for the intake for next year, next September. And we've been in this situation for 2 years running now, in which I've been involved in procuring extra classrooms at short notice. 3 schools needed new rooms. There's Albion School, Charles Dickens School and Dogkennel Hill School. Albion School is being redeveloped completely, and the process of that is well underway, so we only really need a temporary room for 1 or 2 years. Charles Dickens and Dogkennel Hill, on the other hand, were looking for a more permanent solution, more long-term solution, but of course they needed it very quickly as well, within about 6 to 7 months. So we adopted a modular solution, but we needed a modular solution that would be adaptable and distinctive. Modular building allows us to concertina the building process, in that we can do application statutory work, and we can do priority work like foundations and services while the building is being constructed, in effect made in a factory. So it's a very quick turnaround from procurement to completion. We interviewed a number of contractors from the approved list, and in the case of Danza, I was impressed that they were a relatively small firm, but with the access to the resources of a larger firm. So they could give the one-to-one, day-to-day attention to detail that we required, but at the same time be able to mobilise resources, and enough resources in the time that we had. And my first impression when I first met Danza was a good one, but of course we had to invite them to tender along with the other suppliers. And in point of fact, I'm pleased to say Danza came in with the lowest price and the best quality submission. These buildings had the groundworks done at an early stage while the modules are being fabricated. Charles Dickens School is in a archaeological hotspot. There's a Roman cemetery next door, which was uncovered a few years ago during a building development. So the planners were very keen that we take care when we dig holes in the site. They made us engage an archaeologist specialist with a watching brief over the ground worker, who watched as they dug holes and stopped them whenever anything of interest was found. So what we thought were going to be 1 metre deep little pad foundations turned into 4 metre deep mass concrete lumps underground, some of which were enclosing objects of archaeological interest.
Well, I project manage all 3 jobs and liaise closely with the architect and also the school head teachers. On all 3 projects, it was we provided a turnkey package in that we did the foundation works, we put in the trenches, did the service connections, so on and so forth, brought in the school building, completed the school building, handed it over. The whole thing was done and coordinated by Danza. Charles Dickens in particular was logistically quite complicated in that we had to bring the large modules into central London, and there was the complications with the abnormal load restrictions that are enforced in central London when you bring these things to within 3 miles of Charing Cross. So we had to work closely with Transport for London, and also we were restricted in when we could put the building in because of noise restrictions. It just so happened that the restricted times overlapped. We ended up putting the building in over a couple of hours, actually installing the building over 2 hours on a Sunday morning, which was, for me, was a great achievement. And we caused minimum disruption to the local residents in doing it in such speedy fashion. We also caused no disruptions to the school because it was put in during the school summer holiday period. Once the building was in, we then clad it. The building was sunk into the ground, so it had a level access, and then it was clad on site. So to a layman, you look at that building and you wouldn't know it was a modular building.
It opened just before Christmas. We had a few hold-ups to do with planning, and Danza accommodated those. So questions and requests from the local residents, which we had to sort of change the incline of the roof slightly and make the building more attractive from the point of view of people looking at it from our boundaries. So it's a little hold up. Then it opened at Christmas, and we've had 60 Year 1 children, including special needs children, in here since then. The classrooms accommodate 30 children in each classroom, and on average 3 additional adults. And the children, which is really important to us, the children work as a team across the year one. So we wanted that sense of connectiveness between the two classrooms, which we have. They have the same lobby space, the same loos. What's also important to us is that we have inside-outside learning, so the children have double doors and bifold doors that allow them to use the inside-outside space.
I was very pleased that we could get specific on the internal finishes on each of the classrooms. We were able to, in the case of Charles Dickens and Dockennell Hill, to specify plaster skim finishes, timber worktops to kitchen units, a fully fitted out kitchen in the case of Dockennell Hill. Both Charles Dickens School and Dockennell Hill School required an external canopy to provide covered outdoor space, learning spaces for the children. Charles Dickens was interested in a green solution, an eco solution, partly because the site of the new classrooms was next to what they call the eco building, a timber-framed, timber-clad building with a sedum roof, which is used for science. To carry on that theme, the classrooms also had that sort of soft appearance and, if possible, some green aspect. So we've straight off decided on a sedum roof and timber cladding. That's the image we were looking for. It fitted in with the building next door, and it's relatively low key.
So the outside of the building was just as important as the inside of the building because we're a central London school. We wanted to be able to use the outside of each classroom to be able to pin things on the wood. We wanted wood because we didn't want another building plonked in central London. We wanted something that felt quite natural. This building is right next to our garden, so we wanted it to feel like it sort of blended into the garden space. So the teachers have really enjoyed that. They've really enjoyed being able to pin things to the outside of the classrooms, and that was really important to us as well. That's part of teaching young children, is to be able to use the outside space as much as the inside.
The standard of the work's very high. We got things done as quickly as possible under the circumstances. This year, Southwark is engaged in another 3 or 4 modular constructions for temporary classrooms and schools, exactly the same as last year. And I'm pleased to say we were able to employ Danza again on the back of last year's performance.